Hello children, welcome back to part 2 of our chapter, What is Moral Action? You remember in part 1 what all we did? Yes, we studied a little bit about Gandhiji's principles about immoral and non-moral acts. Which act is moral and which is not. You're doing a good act but the intention is not good. What is it called? Immoral. Good square. Do you remember? Yes. You are doing a good act and your intention is also good. That's good square. Always remember all your acts should be good square. Now we are going to learn all this by some great examples of personalities. What they did, was it good or bad? Let's find out. Now historians have called Emperor Alexander great. His word only has great, Alexander the Great. Right? Wherever he went in the course of his conquests, he took the Greek language and Greek culture. So whichever country he went to conquer, he took his culture, which is Greek, and his arts and manners. And today we enjoy the benefits of Greek civilization. He took his culture everywhere that he went. Even in India, in a lot of places, you can see the Greek civilization form. Okay, now Alexander the Great of Macedon, son of Philip II, one of the greatest conquerors of the world. He is known to be one of the greatest conquerors in the world. Okay, now intention of Alexander behind all this was only conquest and renown. His only ultimate and motive was to conquer, his own intention. Who can therefore say that his actions were moral? It was all right that he was termed great, but moral he cannot be called. His only motive was to go to all the countries and conquer them. So he was doing good by taking his culture everywhere and art and craft. But his action, his intention was not good. His intention was only to conquer, which is not good. So can you call his act moral? No, I can't. I will not give him good square points. These reflections prove that it is not enough for a moral act to have been done with a good intention, but it should have been done without a compulsion. You should not have the fear of compulsion behind you. You should not do something which you are forced to do. Now you can't tell your papa, give me an iPhone, then only I will pass and then only I will get 90%. No. You get 90%, your papa will apne aap give you iPhone, and that too the new one. Yes. So don't put compulsions everywhere. That is not a good intention. Okay. There is no morality whatever in my act. If I rise early out of the fear that if I am late for my office, I may lose my situation. The fear that if I don't wake up early in the morning, I might lose my job or work or situation. That fear is not good. Okay, there should be no fear behind doing an act. Similarly, there is no morality in my living a simple and unpretentious, that is modest. What is unpretentious? Simple and modest life, if I have not the means to live otherwise. Now, I will explain this to you. If you have if you don't have any money with you, okay, you will have to live a simple life. It is there, you have no other choice. You can't say that I am living a simple life because I don't have anything. You have to live the simple life. You have no other option but to live that kind of life. In another situation, plain simple living would be moral if, though wealthy, I think of all the want and misery in the world about me and feel that I ought to live a plain, simple life and not one of ease and luxury. I have all the money in the world. I am wealthy and rich, but I choose to live a simple and modest life. That is a moral example, okay? If you don't have money and you say I'm living simple, that is not the moral one. But if you have all the money but still choose to live simple, is the moral one. Now you understand the difference between the two examples? Likewise, It is only selfish and not moral of an employer to sympathize with his employees or to pay them higher wages lest they leave him. For an employer, he should not pay his workers a high salary just for them to stay. He should make them realize that it's because of you that my company is growing and is flourishing, right? He should make them feel important. Only giving higher salary does not work. All right? It would be moral if the employer wished well of them and treated them kindly, realizing how he owed his prosperity to them. He should make them realize that I am at this level because of you. If you were not there, I wouldn't be here. This means that for an act to be moral, it has to be free from fear and compulsion. So he should not be in a compulsion to pay him higher salary, or he should not be fearful that they might leave him. He should make them realize that you are important, you are a family to me. Only then he will succeed. Let's move on with another example. When the peasants rose in revolt and with bloodshot eyes went to King Richard II of England demanding their rights, he granted them the rights under his own seal and signature. Who was this king? King Richard II, he was a Briton king. He compelled to resign from the crown in favor of his cousin Henry of Bolingbroke. Henry IV, Richard died in prison when he was 77-year-old. Shakespeare has a play centered on Richard II with the same title. Okay, so King Richard II was a very popular king. Now these peasants, they had come with bloodshot eyes. That means they had not slept for so long. They were troubled. They were really in trouble. When they came for help to King Richard, what did he do? He helped them. Yes, he did. But he granted them the rights under his seal and signature. He signed and he gave it to them. Now this is a kind act. This is a moral act, correct? But when the danger was over, when there was danger, the king needed his people at that point, right? But when the danger was over, he forced them to surrender the letters. He told them, I want my letters back. Now give me back my letters. It would be a mistake for anyone to say that King Richard's first act was moral and the second immoral. Now the first act also was done with a bad intention. Correct? So it was immoral act. And what was the second act? When he asked the papers back, non-moral, because he knew that he is doing wrong. So you can give this example in your exam when it comes to difference between immoral and non-moral. Immoral was when he signed and gave the letters to the peasants. There was a selfish interest behind that. Non-moral, he knew that he is doing something wrong, right? But forced them to surrender the letters, that was wrong. Non-moral. Okay, for his first act was done only out of fear, and if you do anything out of fear, that is not moral and had not an iota of morality about it. Just as a moral action should be free from fear and compulsion, remember this, so should there be no self-interest, okay, behind it. There should be not like you doing something for popularity or for money or for prestige. There should be no selfish interest in it. If there is a selfish interest in it, that is not a moral act. So fear, compulsion, self-interest, these three things should not be existing. This is not to say that actions prompted by self-interest are all worthless, but only that to call them moral would detract from the moral idea, the dignity of the moral idea. It is not that it is not moral, but the idea of morality is not there in that. Honesty cannot long endure, which is practiced in the belief that it is the best policy. Only because you say honesty is the best policy and you do it? No. You should truly believe that yes, honesty is the best policy. As Shakespeare says, love born out of the profit motive is no love. If you love someone for money or if you love someone because of selfish interest, that is not love. Correct? That is not an honest love. One more example I'll give you. When you lie to someone, right? You have to remember the lie. What did I tell him that day? I have to say that thing again. And if you forget that you said that, you lie again. And this lie multiplies. For one lie, you lie so many times. So that's the thing. Always speak the truth, because to remember the truth, it is not difficult. Alright? But if you speak lie, you are making a chain out of it. So always remember, honesty is the best policy. Be honest, be truth. At that point, yes, you might lose a friend, you might hurt someone, but later you will know that you spoke the truth. It hurts a little, but do that. Just as an action prompted by the motive of material gain here on earth is non-moral, so also another done for considerations of comfort and personal happiness is another world is non-moral. Now there are two kinds of things. One is motive of material gain here on earth, and one for your own comfort. Something which you do for your own selfish interest and comfort is also non-moral. Okay? That action is moral, which is done only for the sake of doing good. There is absolutely nothing beyond that. No fear, no compulsion, no self-interest, only good. A great Christian, St. Francis Xavier, passionately prayed. He always liked to pray that his mind might always remain pure. For him, devotion to God was not for enjoying a higher seat after death, for him to go to heaven. He prayed because it was a man's duty to pray. He loved praying. He gave himself completely to God. He was completely devoted to God. He prayed a lot, day and night. Now, who was Francis Xavier? These all words are in your glossary. He was a Jesus missionary known as the Apostle of the Indies. He brought Christianity to India, Southeast Asia, Japan, etc. He used to travel all around and spread Christianity. He was associated with Ignatius of Loyola in founding the Order of Jesus. Okay? Now here, the author wants to say that we pray. We are devoted to God. Yes, but why do we pray? Is there a selfish interest behind that? Do we want to go to heaven and then we pray? No, right? We pray because we love God and we want to be completely devoted. So here also, he prayed because it was a man's duty to pray and not because of fear of going to hell or a compulsion. Alright? The great Saint Teresa wished to have a torch in her right hand and a vessel of water in her left, so that with the one she might burn the glories of heaven and with the other extinguish the fires of hell. Now Saint Teresa, what was her only wish? When she dies and when she goes up, she with this fire, torch of fire, burn the glories of heaven, which everyone says that I want to go only to heaven because that's a good place to live in. Right? And she had a vessel of water. There was water inside it. She wanted to go to hell and pour water throughout in the entire fire of hell, so that both of them are same place to live. So people do not pray to go to hell or heaven. People pray because they are devoted to God and not for the selfish interest. And men might learn to serve God from love alone, without fear of hell and without any temptation of heavenly bliss, because people should pray just for themselves, not the fear of God. Okay. Now Saint Teresa, I'll tell you a little bit about her. She was also known as Teresa of Avila. She was a Spanish nun and reformer of the Carmelite order. She wrote her own mystical experiences. Sometimes people get their own experiences of God. So that's what she wanted to explain. Such a beautiful concept, isn't it? To preserve morality thus demands a brave man prepared to face even death. It is cowardice to be true to friends and to break faith with enemies. You should have a balanced life. You should be true to your friends and enemies. You should not show a fake personality to enemies. That's a double personality. Those who do good out of fear and haltingly have no moral virtue. Those who are scared and then be moral, that's not true virtue. Now, example of Mother Teresa. She had no fear. She used to do everything compassionately to help everyone without any compulsion. So you should not have two faces. You should not be a different face to the world and different face to your enemies. You should be the same to everyone. It is up to them how they accept you. Moving on, Henry Clay. Now these are few more examples that the author has given us. He was known for his kindliness, sacrificed his convictions to his ambition. He sacrificed all his beliefs and principles for his ambitions. Daniel Webster. He, for all his great intellect and his sense of the heroic and the sublime, once sold his intellectual integrity for a prize. He was known for his heroic responsibilities. He was a great leader, but in one speech or one incident, he sold his intellectual integrity for a prize. So one mistake and see what happens. So I'll talk about Henry Clay. He was an American statesman and orator. He was accused of having forsaken all his principles in the hope of winning support for his candidature for the presidency. For becoming a president, he sacrificed all his principles, not moral. All these examples you should remember of all these personalities, who is moral and who is not. Alright, this might come in your exams. So I have given you a lot of examples related to that also. Remember all those. Now, by a single mean act of, he wiped out all his good deeds. By one single statement, whatever he had achieved was all wiped out. This shows how difficult it is to judge the morality of man's action, because we cannot penetrate the depths of his mind. Now, we don't know what a person is thinking. Maybe he wanted to actually do something good but could not achieve that. So, going into a mind of a man is not possible. Going deep into a man's mind is not possible. What does penetrate mean? It means affect profoundly or pierce, go inside. So, it is very difficult to sometimes judge the morality of another person. We have also the answer to the question raised at the outset of this chapter. Outset, the beginning of the chapter. What was the question? Do you remember? We started this chapter with a question to find all the answers in the course of time. What is a moral action? Have we now got the answer? The main is good square. Yes, if you are doing a good thing, the intention also should be good, and lot of other things following. Incidentally, we also saw which kind of men could live up to that of morality. Which kind of men? He has given us lot of examples for us to understand what kind of people live up to morality and what not. Now, are you ready for question answers? Come on, let's solve them. This is question number 12. Why does Gandhi say that Alexander's consequences cannot be called moral actions? Why? He is called Alexander the Great, but his actions are not moral. Let's find out why. Alexander's conquests cannot be called moral actions because the intention behind all of them was only for power and to be renowned, to be known, to conquer, which is non-moral. In each paragraph, Gandhiji adds one criterion to consider an action moral, whether it is moral or not moral. What criterion is added in paragraph 4? Gandhiji says that an action is moral if it is done voluntarily and without compulsion or fear. There is no compulsion. Like I told you the example of greeting the teacher. You should not be in compulsion. You should do it to brighten someone's day. Or fear. You remember? So remember the examples and then answers are easy to come out. When does simple living become normal? I hope you know the answer too. Simple living becomes moral when the person, although wealthy, he has all the money and he is rich, thinks of all the want and misery in the world about him and feels that he ought to live a plain, simple life and not one of ease and luxury. When this particular man, in spite of having all the money, chooses to live a simple life, alright, then the simple living becomes normal or moral. When does an employer's action of paying higher salaries to his employees remain non-moral? This is the question number 15. When the employer sympathizes with his employees or pays them higher wages lest they leave him, his action remains non-moral. Non-moral means he knows that he is wrong, still he chooses to do that. When Gandhiji quotes Shakespeare in paragraph 5, what argument does he want to strengthen? This is question number 16 when he is talking about Shakespeare. When he quotes Shakespeare, Gandhiji wants to emphasize the point that any action, even the one of showing love, done with a profit motive, there is a profit behind it, ceases to be a moral action. If there is any selfish interest or profit, that is not love. That is not a moral action. Honesty should be resorted to, not because it dies the policy, best policy of all, but because it is the right policy. Not because it is just a policy and you need to follow, but it is the right policy. That's when you need to follow it. Okay, otherwise there is no use of following the policy. Question 17. Gandhiji mentions the name of Henry Clay as an example for moral or non-moral action. Choose the correct answer. The correct is non-moral action. Question number 18. What qualities of Daniel Webster does Gandhiji mention here? The answer is Daniel Webster had great intellect and a wonderful sense of the heroic and the sublime. He was wonderful in his heroic presence. Alright, these are the qualities that Gandhiji mentioned in the chapter. But still, in one mistake, all of this went down. Question number 19. What is the single mean act of Webster, Daniel Webster, mentioned in paragraph 6? His single mean act was that he once sold his intellectual integrity for a prize. Maybe someone told him, you say this and I will give you this power. So he sold his integrity for a prize. Someone wants to give him something and he lost all his values. So that is wrong. Okay. Why is it difficult to judge the morality of a man's action? It is difficult, yes. Why? Because it is difficult to judge the morality of man's action because we cannot penetrate the depths of the mind. We don't know whether this person, what he is thinking, whether it's right or wrong. So it's difficult to judge at that point. What arguments does Gandhiji give to justify that a moral action should be free from fear and compulsion? This is question number 21. He says that there is no morality in a person's act if he rises early out of the fear, okay, that he is getting late for his office and he may lose his job, his situation. Similarly, there is no morality in his living a simple and unpretentious life if he has not the means to live otherwise. That means if he is compulsory has to live that kind of life, there is no morality behind it. Let's move on to question 22 now. To sum up, an action becomes moral when an action. Complete the following. Now they have already given us one answer. We need to fill in all the answers by the paragraphs. Okay, this is the sum up of all the for the entire chapter. A, they've already given from paragraph 2, springs from one's own will and heart. From paragraph 3, which is the action that becomes moral, it is to be done with the intention to do good. Okay, I have written all the answers here. Now from paragraph 4, it is to be done without any compulsion or fear. From paragraph 5, it is to be done with no self-interest behind it. So mainly, It should be done from your own will, it should be done with the intention to do good, without any compulsion of fear, and with no self-interest. With this, we finish all the questions now. Now we have completed the chapter. I'm going to read the summary to you. So just before the exam, even if you read the summary with me, go through my video, I think it will help you great. Okay, let's start. Gandhiji mentions 6 qualities of an action which qualify it to be called moral and the absence of which make it non-moral. Many actions are done because they are a part of society's conventions, old age thinking. Without such behavior, there will be anarchy in society. Such acts are non-moral. Anarchy, that means anyone will do anything. If you don't follow conventional rules, everyone will do what they want to do. An act to be called moral should spring from our own will. It should not be performed mechanically without any discrimination or thought. A good act is not a moral act if the person does not have the intention to do good. Results of our action should be left to God. Alexander, though called great, was not moral. There should be no self-interest behind a moral act. Even honesty cannot be practiced as the best policy. It should be the only policy. An act done for consideration of comfort and personal happiness in another world is non-moral. That action is moral which is done only for the sake of doing good. That's all. Moving on. St. Francis Xavier and St. Teresa had devoted souls who prayed to God because they loved Him and not any selfish interest. That is moral act. Henry Clay and Daniel Webster lived virtuous lives but sacrificed their virtue just once, thereby negating all the good they had done. Gandhiji concludes that judging the morality of a man's action is very difficult since we cannot penetrate the depth of his mind. We can't go into a person's mind and find out what he is thinking. So it's very difficult sometimes to judge if he is thinking good or bad. So with this, we end our chapter What is Moral Action, written by our own very great Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. I hope you enjoyed this chapter reading with me. Anything that you need, you can comment in the comments below and we will answer that. We will address to it. With relate to the chapter, we have a lot of games and quizzes and all the question answers are in the app. Please go through it. Please make use of it and come out with flying colors. I want all achievers. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Signing out, Kashish Chugh.